Time to discuss the age-old debate regarding JPEG versus RAW, and I'll give you my opinions on it and perhaps a little analogy that might help you to better understand it. Before we get started, I want to level set this discussion. I'm well aware there are some fanatics out there on both sides of this camp, on the RAW side and the JPEG side. Over the years, as I've been taking photos, I hear both sides of the argument, and I'm asked the question quite often, which one do I shoot, which one's the best? And I think it depends. I think it depends on the situation. I think there are merits to both of them. And so I've taken some notes because I really want to try to stay on point with this discussion, and I encourage this discussion in the comments below. This discussion is really not meant about right or wrong. It's really just to talk about the differences between the two. I'll give you my opinions on it, and you can take it for what it's worth. I'm not saying it's the absolute right or wrong way. And again, I think there's some merits to both. So let's go ahead and just jump right in, and I'll try to stay on point here. I'm going to start off with just a basic analogy. So if you're new to photography and you're not quite sure what's going on, you hear the term RAW and JPEG, and you hear that RAW is better, and you're kind of confused by it all. And maybe you go to take with RAW, then you look at it and you're thinking, why does this look so bad? Well, RAW is unprocessed. Okay, so the analogy I want to tap on here is that of a builder. So let's say you're going to build a house and you go to meet with the builder and you say, hey, I'm looking for a house that's got so many bedrooms in it, it's got so much square footage, and etc. And that is an analogy to the composition. Okay, so whatever's in that photo. And your builder goes, yep, that's fine, that's not a problem, we got that. Okay? The builder is going to turn around and start the build process, and the builder will say to you, I'll tell you what, we're going to go ahead and pour the foundation, and we're going to get the framing up, and we're going to get the walls in place. Now, when we get to that point, you got a decision to make. If you don't mind spending some extra cost and time, we're going to have you come in at that time before we get any paint on the walls, the floor down, or anything like that, and we're going to have you come in and we're going to give you that flexibility. So, for example, this is a color deck right here, right? It's got all kinds of colors in it. But if that builder says, look, you want to see what wallflower color, right? There's all kinds of colors, right? We're going to put a swatch on the wall for you. And we put that swatch up there. If you don't like it, not a problem. You want to pick another one, we throw it up. We haven't painted everything yet. We haven't laid down on the floor yet. You get to test out whether or not you like tile or wood and all kinds of stuff. You have a lot of creativity and flexibility when you go custom. Okay? Builder says this, your second option, if you want to save a little time and money, is to let us know ahead of time what you want your walls to look like, your floor to look like, and everything else. And you're not going to be able to see it during the build process. We're going to show it to you when it's all said and done. Okay? So this analogy, that second option, is very similar to a JPEG. You can go inside your camera and you can adjust the saturation, the sharpness, and some other things in there that really kind of make that image sort of pop in the end. Okay? Now, if you're not quite sure about that and you're thinking that you really want a lot more flexibility, you go with RAW. Now, there's more time and overhead to RAW. You can't share a RAW image. If you go out and take 1,000 photos and you take them all in RAW, guess what? You need to process all 1,000 and you must convert them to a format that other people can view, such as JPEG. Okay, so your camera, if you go with the JPEG option, says you don't really need to do any of that. We're going to go ahead and we're going to show you a JPEG that you can share right out of the gate. Now, the downside to this is that you lose all that RAW information, so you may not be able to fully customize like you could in RAW. And can you still make some tweaks to those JPEGs? Yes. Could you recover some of the images like you could with RAW? No. RAW has got everything in it. That's what makes it so cool and fun and flexible, and to the creative person, it's a lot of fun. But if I'm just shooting for myself and I'm out on a family vacation, I'm doing whatever, myself personally, I will look at certain images and shots and I will think, I'm going to flip over to RAW because I'm going to have some fun with that image later. And so that's when I go RAW. If I'm not quite sure on what I'm going to do, I'm going to go JPEG and RAW. If there are just a lot of quick shots and I'm at a family picnic and I'm doing that sort of thing, JPEG. again, you can still make color adjustments in JPEG. I mean, I've done some really good things with JPEG. So it's just something to think about. The other thought with JPEG is that back in the Sochi Olympics, the Associated Press used JPEG. So it took them 90 seconds from the time they took that photo to the time they published on their site. How did they do it? The photographer was using JPEG, used a wireless connection to send that image to the editors on the back end. Do a little research on this and you'll find this out. It's actually pretty cool. But on the back end, they had 3 editors for the photographer. One editor did color correction, the other one did cropping, and the last one did the metadata and pushed it to the web. 90 seconds start to finish, pretty cool. And they produced a lot of awesome images, so there's a lot of good to be had with JPEG, in my opinion. Okay, so we talked about RAW and how you can't share RAW, so you need to convert it. So I think we talked about some of the benefits of RAW as well, but if you're an enthusiast and you're a hobbyist, or a strong hobbyist in the world of photography, or definitely if you're a professional and you're shooting a lot of photos for clients, that kind of thing, then chances are you're going to give RAW a shot, and if you haven't, then do it, because like I say, it's really cool. It offers a lot of flexibility. If you're a standard shooter out there, if you're like a typical parent and you're out running around at soccer games and you're really not into technology, you don't get on the computer much, you just like to take some good photos and share them around, then my thought is don't worry about RAW. If you want to get more from the camera and you want to learn more about it, then look into RAW. Okay, but your photos won't be bad necessarily because you're not taking them in RAW. It's just RAW offers more flexibility and creativity. I know for myself, I was taking a picture of a sporting event, and it was a team shot of kids outside, right? And it was sunny outside, and I had my camera on a RAW plus JPEG mode, and I typically don't do that, but I did it on this given day, and I really thought the JPEG will be fine. We got a lot of sun, it's easy to get the exposure right, and something didn't go right though, because I was shooting with my Nikon, and I did aperture priority, and I let the camera control the shutter, and everything was looking fine with my metering. I thought we're in good shape. That night I got back, I looked at it and realized the images were blown out. Now fortunately I had a RAW, took it into Lightroom, and I was able to salvage those images. Now I tried to salvage them with the JPEG as well, just to see what I could do, and I didn't think they looked that bad. But I think most people might look, and if they had the choice between A and B, they might have chose the one that I did the RAW with, just because I was able to pull a little more from it and clean it up more, that's all. But again, that was an example of where the shot was overblown. It was way overexposed, and I probably should have looked at the histogram on the back before I walked away, but I didn't. I thought, this is a slam dunk, I got it. Okay, so let's say you like the idea of RAW, but you're thinking about the file size, and you don't want to hoard it all, right? I did say hoard. I want to be sure that didn't slip and go a different way. I'm not a big advocate of being a digital hoarder. So when I take my images in RAW, if they're for clients and it's like a paid deal, then I believe in keeping that. You never know what the client might want to come back with. But if it's for me personally, I get back, I have some fun with it, I do some creative stuff with it, then I think I don't know that I really want to keep RAW at that point. Chances are I'll export. If I'm going to print, you export to TIFF. If I want to share, it's JPEG. You can still print from JPEG, don't get me wrong. I've got some great prints from JPEG. But if I had the choice and I know I'm going to print something large, I'm coming off of RAW, I'm going to go TIFF with it. Now, a lot of professional photographers and some strong enthusiasts might say never get rid of the RAWs because those are your negatives. And that is one school of thought, and I appreciate that school of thought. For me, I know if I had thousands of negatives, chances are I'm never going to go back once I've already corrected that negative and once I've already processed it. You know, I'm going to process it the way I like, and then out it goes. Now, if I process to black and white and you get rid of that negative, I'm going to lose all the color. So if I go black and white, typically I'll keep that negative or the RAW file, or I may produce a black and white and a color. So that's just the way I go, and again, I'm not saying that's right. It's just kind of how I roll, and it doesn't mean I get rid of all those RAWs. It's just how I get rid of some, you know, or a good portion of them if they're shot for me and I got what I wanted out of it. So I don't know if that helps you or hurts you. And really, I think that's about it. That's all the notes I have here. So you know, hopefully this discussion helped to provide a little more information on the difference between RAW and JPEG, and I'm curious to know your thoughts. So feel free to leave them below and let me know what you do. Do you shoot in RAW? Do you shoot in JPEG? And which one do you like, and why do you do it? Again, I'm open for both sides, and I'm a big believer that there's a time and a place for both. So hopefully this discussion helped you out. And give this video a thumbs up if you liked it, and help to share this video so we can get this discussion rolling. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel. It's called The Real World. You never know what I'm going to post. My main space is in photography and technology, but I also post videos on other things such as automotive maintenance and just some different things. You just never know. So go ahead and subscribe to the channel. And until the next video, take care of yourself and be safe.